This week we'll stay in the Psalms, and our verse comes from Psalm chapter 73, verse 26, which reads, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Psalm 73 was written by Asaph, one of the chief musicians during the days of David and Solomon. Early in the psalm, Asaph makes an honest confession that his feet had almost slipped. He knew God was good, yet he wrestled with doubts. We all experience doubts from time to time. Having questions doesn't mean you don't love God, and it doesn't mean you aren't a follower of Christ. Sometimes our doubts sound a lot like Asaph's. He couldn't understand why God seemed to bless the wicked. They appeared to prosper, while those seeking to follow the Lord often struggled. It just didn't seem fair. In verses 4 through 12, Asaph describes the seemingly carefree life of the wicked. They appear healthy, wealthy, and free from many of the troubles that burden everyone else. The arrogant and ungodly often seem to gain more success the farther they drift from God. Looking at that, it's easy to become discouraged or even envious. Eventually, Asaph reaches a low point. In verse 13, he says, "Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure." In other words, he's asking, is pursuing holiness really worth it? He felt as though he was being disciplined and afflicted, while the wicked seemed to have it easy. Maybe you felt that way too. Perhaps you've wondered why God seems patient with those who reject Him, while your own life feels filled with hardship. Everything changes in verses 21 through 24, though. Asaph recognizes that his thinking has become distorted. He confesses his foolishness and turns back to the Lord for wisdom and guidance. Once his heart is realigned with God, he begins to see life clearly again. That reminds me of a simple illustration, which goes like this. A man complained for weeks that his new glasses were defective. Everything looked hazy. Street signs were hard to read, faces were blurry, and he was convinced the prescription was wrong. Frustrated, he returned to the optometrist. The doctor took the glasses, smiled, and wiped the lenses with a cleaning cloth. They were covered with fingerprints, dust, and a thin film of grime. When the man put them back on, everything was crystal clear. The problem wasn't his eyes or the glasses, it was what had built up on the lenses. Our hearts can become like those dirty lenses. Bitterness, envy, pride, and worldly thinking cloud our spiritual vision. Asaph needed to confess his wrong perspective and refocus his eyes on God. Once he did, he not only regained a heavenly perspective, but he also made this incredible statement in verse 25. "Whom have I in heaven but you? And besides you, I desire nothing on earth." That is the secret to the truly good life. It is a godly life that leads to the good life. The lifestyle of the ungodly may appear attractive for a season, but they are missing the greatest treasure of all, the presence of God. Someone once said, "The ungodly have everything they want except God, while the godly have in God everything they truly want and need. He is their portion forever." So remember this week's verse. "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Our bodies will grow weak, our hearts will fail us, our circumstances will change, but if you have placed your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, God Himself is your strength today, your inheritance forever, and your everlasting hope.